All right, hello and welcome. If you're gearing up for NEET 2026, then listen up because your quest starts right here, right now. This is day one, and we're diving straight into a huge topic, the living world. Ready to get started? Let's go. You know, every great adventure, it always starts with a map, right? Well, for this massive NEET quest you're on, your map is biology. It's literally the guide that's going to help you navigate this incredible, complex landscape of life itself.
So, what is this map really? Well, at its very core, biology is, simply put, the science of life. It's the toolkit, the fundamental toolkit you're going to use to understand everything. I'm talking from the tiniest microbe all the way to a blue whale. You know, how they're built, how they function, where they even came from. So think of this definition as the very first, most essential tool you're sticking in your backpack for this journey.
Okay, so you've got your map. But any good explorer knows a map isn't enough. You also need a field guide, right? Something to help you identify what you're actually seeing out there. To really get a handle on biology, you've got to be able to tell what's alive and what's not. So, what are the telltale signs? Turns out there are 7 key characteristics that pretty much everything living shares.
First up, we've got growth. And yeah, this one might seem super obvious, but it's a huge defining feature. We're talking about an irreversible increase in mass or size. You know, like a tiny little seed that sprouts and becomes this massive tree, or how animals grow up from babies to adults.
Next, at number 2 is reproduction. I mean, this is life's incredible trick for making more of itself, right? Creating offspring. And it can happen in a couple of ways. Either asexually, where, say, a single cell just splits in two, or sexually, which involves 2 parents. This is literally how life keeps the whole show going.
All right, third on our list, metabolism. Now, what is that? It's basically the grand total of all the chemical reactions that are constantly happening inside a living thing just to keep it running. You can think of it like the engine of life. It covers everything from you digesting your lunch to the breathing process, respiration, that's happening in every single one of your cells right now.
Number 4, and listen, this one is a big one, cellular organization. This is a rule that is absolutely universal, no exceptions. If something is alive, it has to be made of 1 or more cells. The cell, it's the basic building block, the fundamental unit of structure and function for every organism we know of, period.
Okay, number 5 is a fun one, response to stimuli. It just means that living things are actually aware of what's going on around them and they react to it. So think about a plant leaning towards a sunny window, or that instant reflex when you touch something hot and pull your hand back. That's life responding to stuff in the environment. Light, sound, touch, you name it.
Coming in at number 6, we have adaptation and evolution. And this is just mind-blowing. It's the ability of life to actually change over huge spans of time, over generations, to become a better fit for its environment. Honestly, this is the very reason we have such a breathtaking, incredible variety of life on Earth.
And last but not least, number 7 is homeostasis. It sounds complicated, but it's really the ability to keep a stable, constant environment on the inside, no matter what's going on outside. So think about it. Whether it's freezing cold out or scorching hot, your body is working like crazy to keep your internal temperature steady at around 37 degrees Celsius. That is homeostasis. Okay, lean in for a second, because here's a really crucial tip for your exam. Please do not just memorize these 7 things as a list. For the NEET exam, the real game is understanding the subtle, and I mean subtle, differences between them. That's where they hide all the tricky questions. So really mastering this field guide is, well, it's totally non-negotiable.
Okay, so we've got our 7 signs. We can tell what's alive, but just stop and think about the sheer scale of life on Earth. We're talking millions and millions of different species. How in the world do scientists keep track of all that? I mean, how do you give every single plant, every animal, every microbe its own unique name that works everywhere, so that a scientist in Japan knows exactly what a scientist in Brazil is talking about? It's a huge problem, right?
Well, the answer is, you create a universal language for all of biology. And the person we have to thank for this is a brilliant botanist named Carolus Linnaeus. He developed a system called Nomenclature.
It's basically a clear, consistent set of rules for naming things, which lets scientists all over the world talk to each other without getting confused.
And the system he came up with is so elegant and simple. It's called binomial nomenclature. Let's break that down. Bi means two. Nomen means name, so a two-part name. Every single species gets one. The first word is the genus, always capitalized. The second is the species name, lowercase. A perfect example? Us, Homo sapiens. See how that works? Simple but powerful.
Okay, so naming things is one huge step, but just having names isn't enough. How do you organize them all? How do you show that, say, a lion is related to a house cat, or that a fern is related to a pine tree? For that, you need a filing system, a really, really big one. And that's where the science of taxonomy comes in. It's like a giant, perfectly organized filing cabinet for all of life.
So this filing system, it's built on 7 main levels, or what scientists call ranks. We start at the very, very top with kingdom. That's the biggest, most inclusive group. Then we get more and more specific as we go down the ladder. Phylum, then class, order, family, genus, and finally, all the way at the bottom, we hit the most specific level of all, species. Every step you take down, the group gets smaller and more exclusive. So how on earth are you supposed to remember that order, especially when you're stressed out during an exam? Simple. You use a mnemonic. This is another one of those essential tools for your toolkit, a little memory hack. Just remember this silly sentence. King Philip came over for good soup. Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Boom! A simple phrase that just locks that core concept right into your brain.
Whoa, okay, that was a bit of a whirlwind, I know. But look at what you've just done. You've armed yourself with some seriously powerful tools. And this is just day one of your quest. So let's not call this a summary. Let's call it an inventory check. Let's see what you've just packed for the journey ahead.
All right, let's take stock. What's in your foundational toolkit now? First, you've got your map. You know what biology is. Second, you've got your field guide, the 7 characteristics of life. Third, you've got the language, binomial nomenclature, so you can name anything. And fourth, you've got the filing system, the classification hierarchy to organize it all. This stuff right here, this is the absolute bedrock for everything, and I mean everything that comes next.
And that brings us to one final big question. We've talked all about this giant filing cabinet, this amazing hierarchy, but what's actually in the drawers? You know how life is organized now, but what are the great kingdoms it's organized into? Well, that's exactly what we're going to tackle in our next explainer when we dive headfirst into biological classification. I'll see you there.